What's up, everybody? Denny K from DK Wood Design, and today I've got to make a Christmas present. So my buddy, every time I go to his house, he feeds me, and your boy likes some food. And so he makes us, me and my family, about 3 to 5 pizzas, always gives us one to take home because he's got a brick oven pizza and he's a heck of a crafter at it. So I'm going to use my craft, right, and make him some pizza boards that he can use to put on the table. And then with that, I'll make a rack that he can slide the pizza boards in, so they're not kind of spread out throughout the table. It's a stack. You can be able to pull out and put a slice. So let's get into board selection and go from there. Right, we're going to use a little black walnut. Now, I've already got some pieces from another project that have already been done. So I'm going to use these little strips instead, and then I'm cutting them to kind of 1/2 inch sections. They're really just going to be there for accent. Now, normally you wouldn't make like a high-end cutting board, less than like 3/4 inch thick, using the end grain board. But because I'm making pizza paddle boards, and I'm going to taper the off ends to almost flat or pretty close to flat, I think 1/2 inch should be fine. Really honestly, it's not like we're chopping up food here. We're just going to cut pizza, maybe with a knife, likely a pizza roller. So, but for the bulk of it, I'm going to use this white oak. You'll see the end grain on the end, but it's got a great pattern. I mean, oak is a beautiful board in my opinion. Obviously not as pretty as black walnut, but it's more expensive. And then white maple. This white maple is already cut to the 18 inches that I'm going to use. But that's what we're going to do first. So first step is going to be over to the miter saw. We're going to chop this wood to our 18-inch sections and go from there.
So we start with the adage of measure twice and cut once. I've also got to identify the straight edge of this rough cut oak. So that's what I'm doing. I also need to verify that I'm going to get 2 18-inch boards out of this one piece of lumber, to reduce the amount of waste. I probably would have changed the overall length if that wasn't the case. And then you'll notice I always wear iPro, also a respirator. I don't have the best dust collection other than my shop vac, and so I wear a respirator quite a bit. I leave a little bit on the end here, and so I'm going to chop that off, and then we'll make our way over to the planer, which is kind of the next step of this section. So at the planer, the goal is to make sure that this wood has got a great even thickness across the board. I know it's all straight, right? We've kind of verified that, but now we want to make sure we're getting it kind of to the same thickness. And so I'm going to do that for both the oak and the maple. Now, my planer does leave because uneven pressure, it leaves the planer snipe on there. And so we'll have to hit the sanding on that next to make sure that we get a good solid glue up.
All right, now that we've got them planed, we're going to hit them with a sander before we take them and cut them to the 1/2 inch segments that they're going to be. Yeah. So that's what we're going to do.
So for the sanding, I'm using 120 grit, and the first goal is to remove that planer snipe. If I don't, I'll have the ends that won't glue up properly because there'll be gaps in between them. So I've got to fix that. I've got to build a sled or something, or some sort of contraption to make better pressure on some of these boards, because that board's not that long to get that much planer snipe, but it doesn't take me long to kind of smooth it out and get it good to go. This will also help the wood glue bind together.
All right, so we've got them sanded at least to a starting point. We're going to take them through the table saw now. We got the table saw set to 1/2 inch. Now, the big thing about these rough cut lumber, right, is that you have a straight edge on one side to get those nice even thickness, right, so that they're all the same. So when I ordered this lumber from the lumber mill that I go to, they come with one straight edge, like one cut edge, and the other edge is not as guaranteed, right? So it's just important for me to recognize which one's which, and go from there. And then run it through the table saw. I got the table saw set to half. Well, actually, I have it set to a little over a 1/2 inch. So I got it set to 5/8. So I'm going to start at 5/8. That way I have some sanding room, as well as anything else that I might need to do. Again, because I haven't really messed with this before. So that's kind of what we're working through. We're going to go through this process, starting to get warm. So I'm already stripping off layers and going from there.
As I said, we're going to cut these boards to 5/8 inch strips. And we're doing that so we have playroom to get it down to that kind of 1/2 inch goal. All the boards are going to be the same thickness, with the exception of the black walnut. Well, the black walnut will be cut as well to the 5/8 inch thickness, and they're smaller strips. I don't have my respirator on right now because I've got the shop vac in for dust collection. It's not enough. I end up transitioning and putting the respirator on. Safety is really important when operating any machinery, especially the table saw. So you'll see I stand off to the side. I use my push stick. I didn't build, the fancy one, but it does do the job, and we kind of keep everything as safe as possible.
All right, so now that those are all cut, we're kind of at the point where we're going to lay out our pattern. I've got 4 strips of the black walnut, which I kind of know what I want to do with that. So I'm going to have about a 5-inch handle, maybe a little bit less, cut into the side. Oh, I can see a problem already on some of those areas. I need about 14 inches of material width. It looks like I've got that and a little bit of extra. I see I don't know, we'll play around with it and kind of see what we get. But again, so the overall plan is, right, is it's 18 inches long. We got a 5-inch-ish handle. Really it'll be about 4 inches to grab, and then I want like a bubble at the end. And then the black walnut will kind of frame that handle down the center. And then obviously there'll be some rounding. It's not gonna be square. I don't know exactly what I'm doing yet. Like, it takes a little bit of creativity and to see how things work out. But yeah, so I'll play with these patterns. I might have to cut this white maple into thinner strips to kind of really get after what I want to get after here. But we will see. We will see. All right.
So for the pattern, I'm looking for a symmetric pattern. I really like the way that the black walnut and the white maple kind of go together. So I kind of put those together, and then I add the oak in between it for a layer. I was gonna do the black oak on the, or I'm sorry, the black walnut on the outside, but I decided to add some oak in there. And then I also take a couple of these white maple strips and I cut them into thinner strips, right, to add a little accent in that big block of oak. And this is the final pattern. I think it looks pretty fantastic.
All right, so now is the absolutely hardest part of this, which is the glue up. You can see I kind of did a layout, kind of got an idea of the shape of my mind during that process, depending on what you see of it. So what we're going to be using is Titebond 3. This is food grade quality glue. At least that's what they say. So that's what we're going to do. Titebond 3, waterproof. Really, really durable. I've got that little bit left, and then a whole jug. I'm trying to debate right now, right? I got a great layout. Looks good, I think, especially for the shape I'm going for. The only question and challenge that I have right now is, I mean, obviously the glue up. It's really the hardest spot, especially because I didn't leave a lot to cut on the ends. I probably should have started at 19. That would give me about a 1/2 inch play if boards shift and whatnot. So yeah, a little upset about that, but also it'll be okay. We'll make it.
Glue up for me is miserable. I don't have the like rollers and things like that. I've only got a couple clamps that are really kind of designed for it. I've got pipe clamps as well. I end up opting for these kind of box clamps. They do a pretty good job. I built a little ledge to push it because I only left, I cut it to 18 inches. And so if I get a lot of, play between the boards, I don't have one side that's mostly flat, then, and I have to cut, let's say, half an inch or even more off, right? Half an inch each side. It'll really kind of mess up my overall length goal, which turned out to be pretty effective. I'm applying the glue kind of the one side of the board, but in heavy amounts. This should give me a really good squeeze out. And that's always the goal, is you want to make sure that when you clamp these boards together that the glue is really squeezing out of those crevices evenly to make sure that you've got a good solid glue up, because food, especially with food surfaces, like food and debris can get into those gaps and create bacteria if you don't make sure you plug them. You can plug them with some sand and glue later on.
All right, we're on the second day. Yesterday, the paddleboard dried, not died. So today, right, we'll take it out of this. We'll sand it initially, and we will get we'll get a design in there that I can start working it. That is kind of the plan as of now. And yeah, see you in a bit.
The goal of this initial sand is really to remove the excess glue and get down to the wood surface, not necessarily to get a nice flat, perfectly smooth surface. And that's just so that I can work out the shape, right, and cut it out. And so that's what I'm doing here. And for this step, right, I'm going to lay out the overall design and get a good idea of what I'm working on. Now, I'm using the handle portion as kind of the flat side that I put out, because I'll cut the end off on, where the pizza is going to be scooped up. Nothing too crazy here. I'll do some measurements. It don't have to be perfect. I just want to make sure that I kind of know where I'm going to come in with the jigsaw and make some cuts, and that I'm starting kind of on an even portion. Now at this portion here, we'll come in with the jigsaw. We'll follow those lines pretty closely, but not perfectly, right? This will really come through at the end with the sand. I'll be able to kind of adjust and things like that. This handle for me was really challenging. I just really struggled getting it, especially with this first paddle. I really struggled getting it to the shape that I want. And the first of the three paddles comes out a little thinner than the other two. I end up, instead of just hitting it with the sander, because obviously my radial sander can't get well into the gap between my little kick out of the handle and the handle itself, I end up using a router and coming in and kind of thinning it out, which bites down a couple times and gets it just a little thinner than I want it to be. Overall, though, pretty happy with the shape. I think it, all three turned out really well. So I'm going to come in with that router, and I'm going to use a flute bit to shape this handle out, as well as kind of that angled bottom half, and the sides as well, right? And then we'll end up routing some of the other stuff to, round the edges. But as I said, I do get a couple times that it really bites on me and gets this particular paddle a little thinner than I wanted it to be.
All right, so at this point, we've got the pizza paddle to the place where we just need to finish it. So I got a nice little angle on the edge there to kind of help scoop it. I didn't really look up like a math thing and figure out exactly what that should be. But all in all, I'm pretty happy with it. I got a couple little bites that the router took out, a couple little unevenness, but you know what? It's gonna add character. I love the design of the handle. I just didn't execute the way I really wanted. It feels great in the hand. You know, you throw a finger under there like this, right? You got a ton of leverage. And then with that back little stop there, you can kind of grab it like that. So yeah, all I need to do is kind of step up from the 80 grit to, you know, 120 and then 220 and then do some water treatment and finish. I'll show you guys really the finish process at the end. I got 2 more of these bad boys to make, as well as I'm trying to make a stand for them. So I don't have a lot of time left. It's already Tuesday and I'm supposed to leave Saturday.
All right, so at this point you can see that I have all 3 boards done and shaped, sanded down to probably 120 grit by this point. I'm going through the process now of figuring out this stand. It's about this point that I realize that I only composited 3 boards and I would have needed 6. And so I'm going to sand them, fit them in. You guys didn't get to see me cut the notches into the leg. I basically just use the Tablesaw and run it through a bunch of times because I don't have a datum blade. I'm going to explain that again in a second here. But yeah, I kind of fit them in. I'll glue them up a little bit later, but yeah, it's just a lot of balancing. It's a lot of me figuring out how exactly I want this to work, and going from there. Again, realizing that I'm gonna have to use just the white maple for the back, and again, I'll explain it here in the next segment. But all in all, pretty happy with what I came up with. And again, I don't have any plans, right? I'm doing this all kind of on the fly, just with a vision in my head. And sometimes that's how things go, right? You're gonna make mistakes, and you're gonna have to improvise and kind of build things out. And so that's what I do here, and I'm proud of the work.
All right, team. We are done, at least with this part of it. You might have missed a couple parts putting the rack together. So I've got the rack here, right? This is kind of what it turned out to. I did like a solid white maple for the back piece, and then, you know, kind of merged it with the oak there, and then the 3 posts are dark walnut. It was challenging for me. I don't have a datum blade on the saw, so I had to do it a little bit at a time. But you know, it turned out all right. It's got its flaws, right? It's got its inefficiencies. But I'm gonna hit it, you know, this with a little bit more sandpaper. But the 3 pieces here are done. So we'll take a look at those. All right. There are the 3 pieces, right? The handles turned out pretty good on 2, I think. You know, nice, good, thick, good backstand, kind of that Gladys. This was the first one I did. It's a little thinner, but it should hold and be all right. I'm gonna polish it up. This is what I use for polish. I use the Bumbleshoot Shop Wax, food safe, right there at the back. Right, solvent-free, natural beeswax, food safe. I don't think you need the mineral water or mineral oil. If you just use your shop wax, I just put this on, polish it on. I got a little applicator that I got from another thing. You guys will see it as I'm doing it, but see this thing shine up.
So again, this wax is Bumbleshoot's, or this polish is Bumbleshoot's Shop Wax. Big fan of it. I think it goes on great. I did take through and kind of water step this, you know, sprayed it with water, kind of let it dry, and then sand it off to get that grain really, really smooth. Stepped up from 80 grit to 120 to 220. And I mean, this thing is really nice and smooth now. Putting the wax on there, oh my gosh, it felt so great in the hands. So Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you did like it, please, please, please take the time to like and subscribe. It helps me so, so much. I do a lot of different content, mainly, obviously, woodworking stuff. This is more of a fun project, but I'm doing more practical application of the woodworking here in the future. So please take the time to like and subscribe. Thank you again.